If you or a loved one are going into the prison system, it's really important that you learn how to advocate for yourself. Now, I know that you've had an attorney. If authorities have targeted you with a crime, you've had an attorney that courageously worked with you. But the reality that I experienced is once you get into the system, a person really needs to know how to navigate all of the complexities that are certain to surface throughout the journey. My name is Michael Santos. I'm the founder of Prison Professors, and I will tell you that all of the information that I am offering is what I learned while going through 9,500 days in federal prison. I started in a high security penitentiary. My journey started on August the 11th, 1987, when authorities took me into custody, and I didn't get out until August of 2013. So that was 9,500 days living as federal prisoner number 163-77004. The lessons that helped me, I am absolutely certain can help anybody that's going into the system. But many of those people don't have financial resources to hire attorneys or to hire consultants to help them. That's why it's so crucial for them to learn and get resources that will help them advocate for themselves as they're going through that journey. And that's why we've created the Do-It-Yourself Self-Advocacy Workshop for anybody that's going into the system, or anybody that has a loved one that goes into the system. I would love to be able to help everybody that reaches out to me, but my role is a little bit different. I work to create programs at scale that go into jails and prisons so that people who are serving time can understand, what can I do today? What seeds can I sow today to position myself for a better outcome in the weeks, days, months, years, and decades ahead? We know that prisons really obliterate hope, and sometimes they have lasting consequences that don't only influence the individual, but they also influence the family members of the individual, the children of the individual. So these intergenerational cycles of recidivism and poverty kick in. And if people don't know how to solve them, a lot of times they go through a prison in ways that adjust to the system in ways that really make them fine to live in prison, but the skills they learn make them less likely to function outside. Or it results in them serving sentences that are longer than they should have served. So it's really important for people to learn, and the way that they have to learn is by going through workshops. We provide resources that people can use, but if somebody doesn't do the work, that doesn't help them. And frankly, I think that every person going in there has to work really hard to advocate for himself. That's what this workshop is about. And in this era, now I'm going to go ahead and read from the article. This appears on our website at prisonprofessors.com. If you go to the advocacy section, you'll see the Do-It-Yourself workshop. But I also like to produce the content in both video format and in audio format, because some people who access our content are in jail and prison, and they may not read as well as they would like. This allows them to read along with me, hopefully developing skills. But also there are people that consume our content through our podcast on iTunes. They want to listen while they're driving or doing whatever. So that's why I produce it in every format: digital to read, video to watch if you're in prison, and audio if you're driving down the road. And now I'm going to read. So in this era of the First Step Act and the CARES Act, it is more important than ever for people to engineer self-advocacy initiatives. This workshop offers ongoing support for people while they work toward the earliest possible release date. Simultaneously, the project generates resources to build our nonprofit, which is the Prison Professors Charitable Corporation. And through the nonprofit, we continue to gather information that helps all justice-impacted people get a better outcome. For example, you may want to review our interviews with subject matter experts, including federal sentencing judges, the chief U.S. probation officer, and even the director of the Bureau of Prisons. And please feel free to skip the background section below if you are familiar with my journey. I offer the backstory to those who may want some information about the instructor. So again, the background. My name is Michael Santos, and I'm the founder of Earning Freedom and the Prison Professors nonprofit. My partner is Justin Paperny. You may be familiar with Justin through our other platform, White Collar Advice, where he has a significant presence. Since 2008, when we met inside the Taft Federal Prison Camp, Justin and I have collaborated. Since then, I got to add this in here, but since then we have many other members of our team, and you can see those on Justin's website. But with Prison Professors, it's really me gathering information from subject matter experts and from other people who've gone through the system. This is how we really teach people inside. So for context, you should know that I made terrible decisions as a young man that led me to federal prison in 1987 when I was 23. I served the next 26 years as federal prisoner number 16377-004, and during those 9,500 days, I served time in every security level. Now, members of our Do-It-Yourself Advocacy Workshop receive quite a bit of information that will help them understand. For example, they receive a paperback copy of Earning Freedom, Conquering a 45-Year Sentence, and also Prison, My 8,344th Day. Earning Freedom tells the story of what I learned from my 9,500-day journey and the importance of self-advocacy. The book is a roadmap for laying out a plan to maintain discipline and energy while climbing through a lengthy journey. Prison, the story of a single day, describes a detailed examination on the importance of daily self-advocacy. We send additional content through Core Links messages to help participants stay the course, which is really a daily commitment to self-advocacy. And remember, I would never ask anyone to do anything that I didn't do. That's a message from me. Let me tell you a little bit also about the nonprofit itself. I think I can go to this area so I could just kind of look at you while I'm doing this. Now, the nonprofit really our other business really feeds resources into the nonprofit. But we also get sponsorship from businesses and individuals who recognize the challenge of people going into the system, that those people need resources, and a lot of the people don't have money, they don't have resources, and that may be who you are. So we try to gather resources that will allow us to produce as much content and pay the fees that go along with producing that content. I mean, there's tens of thousands of dollars in all of this equipment. There also we have to pay monthly fees to subject matter experts that will help you advocate for yourself. So for example, today is Monday, June the 20th, 2022, and tomorrow I'm going to be interviewing the former head of the entire reentry system in the Bureau of Prisons. That means he was in control of halfway houses and the home confinement program, and he was in that position for 20 years. So there's a wealth of information that I can gather from these subject matter experts and then pass it along to people who are striving to put themselves in the best position to get out earlier. So those are resources that typically are not available to people. But if they're doing this do-it-yourself workshop, they get those resources not only before they go to prison, but also while they're in prison. And that's one of the reasons that we created this product, is to help people who don't have resources to hire experts. I think that everybody has to be working towards a better outcome, and that's why we established the nonprofit, to provide free and low cost resources. So the free resources, of course, are what you're reading here, getting this messaging. I hope that you find value in it. It's also the low cost resources, which include the books and the workbooks and the courses. But the advocacy product gives you just a little bit more, because I'm tapping into subject matter experts and dispersing that information to all the members of our community. So what happens after sentencing? By beginning a self-advocacy strategy early, a person can begin to restore confidence, building a record that will lead to a better outcome. After sentencing, the person may not have the advantage of an attorney, and for that reason, a person should learn steps he or she could take to work toward a transition to society at the soonest possible time. When federal judges impose sentences, they order the person into the custody of the Attorney General. The Attorney General takes the staff members in the Bureau of Prisons tasks the staff members in the Bureau of Prisons to carry out the sentence. And toward the end of the sentence, staff members may transition the person to a residential reentry center, also known as a halfway house. Before the First Step Act, a few mechanisms existed for a person to work toward advancing a release date. On April the 9th, 2008, President George Bush signed the Second Chance Act. The law authorized the Bureau of Prisons to transition a person from federal prison to a halfway house for up to 12 months. Now, of those 12 months, a person could serve up to 6 months or the final 10% of the sentence on home confinement. That can be a little bit tricky for people who've not been in the system to understand, so it might be helpful for me to provide an example. And on the website, where you could read the article, you'll see that I contrast in the table two people, one individual serving a 30-month sentence and one individual serving a 120-month sentence. So the person with a 30-month sentence would receive credit provided that the individual doesn't lose good time credits for violating rules or disciplinary infractions. And the amount of credit that person's going to receive is about 4.5 months. It's 15% of the time of the sentence. So that means he would serve about 25.5 months. He would be eligible for time in a halfway house at 12 months under the Second Chance Act, but he would only be able to serve 10% of the sentence because it is less than 6 months. So he could only do 3 months in a halfway house. And a person that has a 120-month sentence, in contrast, his sentence is long enough that he could not only qualify for the 12 months in a residential reentry center, but he could serve up to 6 months in the halfway house. Now, that's the way the law worked during the Second Chance Act, which was before the First Step Act and compassionate release. And you should learn about this because you're going to, regardless of what sentence you have, you should know that just because you're eligible, the Bureau of Prisons isn't always I don't know how to say it, isn't always so lenient, I guess I would say, or so considerate in wanting to get people out of prison as soon as possible. And that's, again, one of the reasons a person has to learn how to advocate for himself. So the First Step Act and the compassionate release makes it even more important. This is a law that passed in 2018, and it opened more opportunities for people in federal prison to advocate for an earlier release. Besides earning credit for participating in learning programs, a person could petition for compassionate release under the First Step Act. Before the First Step Act became law, requesting compassionate release or leniency was practically impossible. I mean, you could do it, but it was impossible to get. Because first, a person had to persuade the Bureau of Prisons to file a motion with the sentencing court asking a judge to grant compassionate release. If the BOP refused to file the motion, a judge would not have jurisdiction to grant relief. Despite thousands of worthy candidates, the BOP filed very few motions for compassionate release. Now, clearly, despite having the power to grant mercy, the BOP would rarely act on its own accord to support this request for compassionate release. But with the First Step Act, a person did not need the Bureau of Prisons to file a motion for compassionate release. If a person went through the appropriate process of requesting administrative remedy, the person could file a motion with the sentencing court, and a federal judge could grant compassionate release. Then came the pandemic and the CARES Act that followed. See, during the pandemic, President Trump signed the CARES Act with vast implications for people in federal prison. People serving federal sentences had a new opportunity to transition to home confinement. The CARES Act authorized the Bureau of Prisons to transition people to home confinement much sooner than before. Typically, if the person's sentence was less than 18 months, the BOP would consider the person for home confinement after the person served 25% of the sentence. If the sentence exceeded 18 months, the person would qualify after he served 50% of the sentence. And to transition to home confinement under the CARES Act, a person had to qualify. The person could not have a history of violence, and the person should have a good record in prison to show an extraordinary and compelling adjustment. So the BOP released a set of memorandums to guide prison officials. One of them was this memorandum from March 26th. Another was the April 3rd memorandum, and another one was the April 22nd memorandum of 2020. But since the Bureau of Prisons released the memorandum, thousands of people transitioned from prison to home confinement. They remained accountable to the Bureau of Prisons until the end of their sentences. Yet those people were at home with their families. People serving sentences on home confinement had significantly higher levels of liberty than if they remained in prison. And while they were on home confinement, they could do things like work and earn a living, have a modicum of freedom for recreation, and attend classes to prepare for higher levels of success. Now, despite the danger of COVID and authority under the CARES Act, the BOP did not authorize all eligible people to transfer to home confinement. If the BOP did not transfer a person to home confinement, the person could have to work through administrative remedy process showing why he or she was a worthy candidate. People in prison must become masters of their own advocacy. Because while they're in prison, a defense attorney doesn't provide much value. You don't even have a right to bring a defense attorney into the prison system when you're interacting with staff members that are denying you something or other, unless you've gone through the entire process and exhausted administrative remedies. So our do-it-yourself self-advocacy workshop offers ongoing insight and guidance for people to launch an initiative that could advance a person's candidacy for transfer to home confinement, compassionate release, and other ways to improve outcomes during a journey through the Bureau of Prisons. So, what do participants get from the do-it-yourself workshop? Well, they get this self-directed course that teaches people how to prepare an administrative remedy package and to start a request for home confinement or overcome the challenges that come while serving time in prison. They get a self-directed course that teaches participants how to prepare a request for the sentencing judge to consider a self-directed request for compassionate release. They get ongoing tutorials that we send to the participant in prison a minimum of twice each month. They get access to our Impact at Prison Professors newsletter, which we send to members of our community in prison. They get data from ongoing research to apprise the participants of what works for people who self-advocate. And they get access to our weekly news group video calls where they get to speak with us about daily research. And they get samples of administrative remedy forms and supporting documentations, as well as copies of the following softcover books: Earning Freedom, Prison My 1,344th Day, and Success After Prison, How to Build a Career After Release. And all of the resources from this do-it-yourself self-advocacy workshop goes to support the nonprofit enterprise here at Prison Professors Charitable. And you can learn more about that by clicking this link right here that's on our website. It's also on the home page of the website. So if this project makes sense, our team will help enroll you, and we recommend that all people join the weekly group calls for our community. So all this is with hopes of providing of proving worthy of the trust that people place in our team, and also to help them learn how to help themselves. So this is my partner, Sam Mangel, and anybody that wants to talk about the self-advocacy program can reach out to and book an appointment just by clicking links there on the website. They could also download a PDF of this page if they want to send it to their loved ones in prison. Now, I'm going to switch to the other version here where I can just sit here and talk with you about why I think this is of value to anybody that's going into the system. There's always going to be a problem, and if you've got those problems, you really want to talk to somebody who's gone through the journey. And I would love to talk to everybody who reaches out to me. I just don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the time. And so through the nonprofit, we've built this machine that is going to include these weekly interactive calls, and members of this community can log into those group calls. They can ask questions. I'm not going to do the work for anybody, but I can show you how to do the work yourself. The reality, as I experience it, somebody has to do the work. If you want to do the work yourself, this is a great program as a low-cost resource that not only shows you how to do it, but it provides you with access to subject matter experts like the former director of the Bureau of Prisons, the former head of the halfway house community, the former head of probation, the former federal judges that help you through sentencing, because the self-advocacy program is not only about getting out on home confinement, although I think that's a very important subject matter. I've had to go through administrative remedy numerous times when I was going through 9,500 days in prison. And if you don't know how to advocate for yourself, you'll have a hard time bringing other people into your community to advocate for you. I hope that you will find value in this program. I will always work to prove worthy of your support. I think you'll be able to see that through our YouTube channel, through our iTunes podcast, through our website, through all of the digital content that we produce every week, with hopes of helping people learn how to teach themselves. So if you're going into the journey, make sure that you do everything you can to prepare. We don't want you to endure the hardship that afflicts so many people that go into prison. My name is Michael Santos. I would love it if you subscribe to our program on YouTube or iTunes if you're watching this in the community. If you're inside of a jail or a prison and you're getting this content through our distribution channels, I want you to know that we believe in you, and nobody should work harder than you work to prepare for your liberty. Nobody can do it but you. And it's not only about getting out sooner, but it's about preparing yourself in ways so that when you get out, you are positioned to succeed. We want you to succeed. I am Michael Santos with Prison Professors, and I want to thank you for being a part of our community.